Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. This week we're going to talk about defining femininity and masculinity. Not necessarily in terms of each other, but just as themselves. 5 months ago, this video was requested, and it's been requested repeatedly by different people since, and I've avoided it. I don't want to do this video. The reason I don't want to do it is because this is such a difficult thing to encapsulate, and I'm going to take a huge, complex, broad spectrum idea and shrink it down into a 8 to 12 minute video. So there are things I'm going to miss. The initial question that was asked was, could I do a deep dive into what defines femininity and what defines masculinity? And my answer is, you do. Society does. Sometimes your partner does. I think for people who are new to discovering who they are and how that allows them to show up in the world, these are huge questions. There's not a lot of super specific answers. Most of the answers are subjective to the people who are speaking. If we're going to draw back and look at what defines femininity and what defines masculinity, if we're looking at the traits that define each, there's different ways of looking at this. There is societal implications of both. There is presentation and clothing implications on both. And then there's personal. And even in personal, there's external and internal. When we're speaking just about clothing, there's such a spectrum on even just what's feminine clothing and what's masculine clothing. And in reality, the clothing that you choose does not indicate your gender identity. It indicates your gender expression, okay? And it's really, really important that we understand that when we're talking about femininity and masculinity, it's kind of impossible to leave gender out of it because of how society understands those things. So it's super important that we understand that gender expression is how you show yourself to the world and what gender does the world think that fits into. And then gender identity is who do you know yourself to be inside. So say I go to work one day and I'm wearing sort of a flowy blouse and slacks, and then I come home and I'm gonna weed the front garden. So I'm gonna put on a dirty pair of jeans and a t-shirt and a hat. Protect your face from the sun, kids. I am not less feminine when I am at home doing the weeding than I am when I'm at work, but I'm presenting as less feminine, and therefore people would assume different things about me. And that's where we're going to get into our feminine and masculine traits. So I Googled and I asked, what are the top feminine traits and what are the top masculine traits? And here we go. Top feminine traits were compassion, collaboration, cooperation, and nurturing. And top masculine traits were strength, courage, independence, leadership, and assertiveness. What do you notice about those two groupings? All of the feminine traits are about other people and your association with other people. And all of the masculine traits are singular. Having strength, somebody only knows that if you have strength if you're around other people who don't. Courage, same way. You can't have courage as a group. You have courage as an individual. Independence, obviously independent. Leadership, again, you've got one leader or one group of leaders when there's a leader of the leaders and you're trying to be the leader of the leader of the leader of the leaders. And assertiveness, again, not something you can do collectively. Compassion. Compassion is for other people. Compassion is not usually for yourself. I mean, I do in therapy talk to my clients about compassion for yourself, but usually it's a pretty foreign concept to them because they're so used to thinking of compassion as how I have compassion for other people. Collaboration, your willingness to take on other people's ideas and to work with them and sort of change and mold and make it something that everyone can be proud of together. You can't do that as an individual. That has to be a group thing. Cooperation, same thing. The idea of looking for everyone to cooperate with what needs to get done to get things done. Even when we're task oriented, the cooperation piece removes the individuality from that person. And nurturing, of course, you can't nurture if there isn't anyone else to nurture. This brings me into the most problematic piece of this entire conversation when it comes to masculinity and femininity. They are entirely made up concepts. Let me ask you a question. What's the basis for the typical traits of women to be about other people and the typical traits of men to be about themselves? What's the basis for that? Is that like biologically how we're wired? Do you think that? One of the best things that I found out there, and I'm going to be honest, I do not agree with everything on this paper, but is the best and most comprehensive thing I have found. It was from the Voices of Youth website, which is UNICEF's program for youth by youth. And there was just a screen name credit on the actual article. And so I don't know the name of the person who drew up this infographic. I'll put the link in the description to this article if you want to read it. but I'm also going to put this graphic on now. So this talks about finding balance, right? Feminine energy is receptive, passive, contractive, intuitive, and inward, okay? And then masculine energy is projective, active, giving, expansive, and outward. That's just the energy, right? That's not saying a feminine person or a masculine person. We're going to presuppose that those are the ways these energies exist. Natural feminine is unconditional love, understanding, nurturing, tenderness, kindness, intuitive, creative, feeling, stillness, flow, radiance, surrender, sensitivity, emotion, ease, and allowing. And then you've got natural masculine, which is confidence, inner strength, responsibility, focus, logical, support, stability, direction, protection, clarity, boundaries, courage, discipline, capable, certain, and assertive. What I like about these lists is that none of them are gender specific. And that's really important to me because if you look at each of them, there are times that even the most stereotypical way of understanding gender, these should each be in every person. I want everyone to learn how to be still. I want everyone to know how to do that. I want everyone to be able to use their creativity. I want everyone to have confidence. I want everyone to find inner strength, have clarity, be protective over the things that you have a right to be protective over. In their most natural, balanced state, everyone should have aspects of all of these. Possessing some of these traits and not possessing others allows other people who possess the traits that you don't possess to bring richness into your life. And then we end up in the wounded theme, which has been super interesting to me. Wounded feminine is a victim, powerless, weakness, manipulating, withholding, neediness, codependency, oversensitivity, over-emotional. Wounded masculine is perpetrator, abusive power, dominance, aggression, control, competitive, confrontational, criticism or critical, abuse, avoidance, unsupportive, and unstable. When you look at these definitions, when you understand them in their entirety, then I want you to look at them and think about which aspects you currently have in your life and which aspects you want more of. And in that way, you define femininity and masculinity for yourself. I know this is not the answer that people want when they ask me, what does it mean to be feminine and what does it mean to be masculine? But the thing is, it's a spectrum. It's a continuum. You can be someone who feels, let's say, 80% feminine, right? 80% of the time you feel like you present very feminine. You possess a lot of the feminine characteristics and all of that. You do decide this for yourself, but it is also determined by who you're around. It's this push and pull and constant change of where you are, in what circumstance, how is this working for you, and how much does it resonate with who you are inside. It can be so hard to figure out who we are inside. And I don't know, when this question was originally asked of me, if this was more about gender identity or how do you know if you are more male presenting or female presenting. I don't think that was the intention, because the actual question was, can you do a deep dive into femininity and masculinity? And this is my attempt at a deep dive, because it's not definable in reality. There is no perfect definition. And there's no perfect definition because these are not goals to be attained. We are not trying to be the most feminine or the most masculine you can be. The manosphere is wrong, y'all. It is incorrect. This idea, this push towards all femininity is in women and all masculinity is in men, and when they get together, that's how things get done. That's not true. That is a lie that is perpetrated by purity culture, by the church, by incels. This is not true. These are not reality. This is not reality speaking. What is true? In the core of your being, you will possess both feminine and masculine traits. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you take these definitions of femininity and masculinity and you see them as balance, you see them as balancing each other, that is what's true. That is attainable. That is something to stand behind. When we then relegate these traits to genders, that is where things get messed up. And that is where damage happens to everyone. It is unfair and unrealistic to expect a woman to only ever think about the people around her. That leads to dissatisfaction in life. It is unrealistic to expect that a man will only ever think about how he can provide and protect. That leads to a lack of satisfaction in life. And it leads to a lack of satisfaction because we do all have aspects of all of these things in us, and we're not living into them. That's when things are incongruent internally. And like I said, this is a much longer discussion. So if you have questions about what I've said, or you want me to go deeper into parts of this, please write super specific directions on what it is you're looking for in the comments. And if you don't want to do that, maybe leave a quick 2-word comment about which of those traits you feel like you excel in and which of those traits you would like more of in your life. I'd love to hear it. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next time. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.